Drawing excitement. Those two words go together, and I'll tell you why. There is nothing more exciting than drawing. I'll give you a little formula to start out. A pencil plus imagination equals excitement. Hi everyone, I'm Thomas Kinkade, and I know all about drawing excitement because drawing is what I do every day. No matter what I paint, it all starts with a drawing. Now, the nice thing about drawing, it's something anyone can do. You see this page right here? If I were to tell you that's a tiger, you'd probably say, wait a minute, that's a piece of paper. But you know what? It could be a tiger if I want it to be. Let's see a tiger. Voila, we've got a tiger. You know what's exciting? If I don't like the tiger, I can change it. Like for example, this tiger might look a little better as maybe a lighthouse. And I begin to see the lighthouse. There it is. In fact, I think this lighthouse needs a little bit more work. Maybe we could even add a few seagulls over here. And how about some clouds up in the sky? And maybe a big sun that we see in the distance there, putting out some rays of sunlight. You see, you can draw anything. Again, it comes from your pencil. Pencil plus imagination equals excitement. Nothing can be more exciting than creating anything you want right from your head. That is drawing excitement. So there we have it, just a regular old box of Crayola crayons. Any brand of crayon will do. And what I'm going to do is take one of those crayons out and show you how I prepare it for the drawing. Let's start with that purple one. I'm going to use black for the sake of all our drawings, but you could do it with purple or any color you want. And if you can see here, I'm going to take and peel the paper off. So you can do this yourself with your crayon. The reason I like to peel the paper off is because sometimes we're going to be drawing on the side of the crayon. When we start talking about tone and when we start talking about laying in shading, a crayon that has been peeled gives you a good surface to work right on the side if you want to do that. Now, if you want a sharper crayon, and you notice it has a little teeny edge here. So I'm going to take sandpaper. This is regular old 120 grain sandpaper. You can get this at any hardware store. And I'll take it, and no, we're not going to draw on the sandpaper, but I'm sharpening my crayon. And we get that edge off and make it just into a nice sharp point. Once we're done with that, we're ready to draw. So what I'm going to be using throughout the entire series of drawing excitement is a crayon. This one happens to be broken in half so I can maneuver it a little easier, but it's a black crayon ready to go on white paper. And this is white paper that you can buy at an office supply store in big old pads of about 50 sheets. Now let's begin drawing. The first key to learning to draw is to learn there are only two types of line available. The first one is obvious. It's called a straight line. Now, straight lines are a little more difficult at times to draw than you might think. In fact, have you ever heard someone who said, I can't even draw a straight line? Well, believe it or not, many artists are the same way. It's difficult at times to draw a straight line. But if you can master the simple skill of starting at one point and bringing your line down, you will have learned the secret of drawing a straight line. The second type of line is a curved line. Now, curves may seem a little more complicated, but I've always found curves are easy to draw. In fact, curves come in all different sizes and shapes. You might have an S curve, or a little dinky curve, or a big curve that continues around onto itself is, of course, a circle. Now, believe it or not, with those two types of line, a curve and a straight, you can draw anything in the world. And not just in this world, also in the world of your imagination. For example, even a complicated object like this model boat is made easy when you understand the difference between straight and curved lines. If I wanted to draw the mast of the boat, I use a straight line. If I want to draw the hull of the boat, or the body of the boat that you see there, I use straight lines and curved lines. A straight line on the back and on the front. And to draw it, the curved lines and the straight lines come together. But let's not forget the sail, which is made of straight lines and curved lines. Way out in front, we have one more sail. Now, this simple drawing of a boat shows you that by connecting curved lines with straight lines, you can draw anything. But it doesn't just have to be something that you can see and draw from. Remember, one of the great, fun, enjoyable, and exciting parts of drawing is drawing what you see in your imagination. For example, if I were going to draw that same lighthouse we drew earlier, you can see very quickly. It's simply a matter of connecting straight and curved lines. The straight lines for the side of the lighthouse, curved lines for the top, a couple straight lines to form the very cap of the lighthouse, and even the bushes and trees are simply curved lines. They're very small curved lines. Because a curve is not just a big curve, it could be a small curve, and a straight line could even be a small straight line, such as if we want to draw blades of grass. Anything you can draw with this pencil and your imagination is simply a matter of connecting straight and curved lines. The more you draw, the more you realize how fun your curved lines and your straight lines can be to play with. Look at those ocean waves. Those are simply curved lines, little curved lines lined up. And my cliffs are made of straight lines and curved. There's no right or wrong way to do it. God gives each of us a talent to do things our own way, so it's up to you. We start with an orange. Now, if I were to draw an orange and I drew it like this, I think most of you would probably figure that my eyes weren't working quite right. Because an orange doesn't look like that, does it? Or if I drew it like this, you'd say, no, you're still wrong. Why? Because an orange has a certain proportion. An orange is round. Now, whether you can draw a round circle or not, I think you can recognize a round circle. This isn't a round circle, and this is. Now, the same is true with a pear, one of my favorite fruits. We used to live in an area where there was a lot of pears, and I will tell you right now, a delicious pear, when it's in season, is beautiful. So I'm going to draw a perfect pear. Whoops, something's wrong. Now, whether you're an artist or not, you know that is not a pear. On the other hand, if I do this, is that a pear? Someone said, no, that's not a pear, that's an egg. Well, there's a difference between a circle, an egg, and a pear. Because if you look very carefully at the shape of this beautiful object, you will see that a pear has its own characteristics. Now, characteristics is just a big word for saying it has its own look, its own quality. Now, let's figure out what a pear looks like. A pear, as you can see here, starts with a big circular bottom shape, and it comes up to a smaller shape on top. Starts with a circular shape and comes up to a smaller shape. And you want to get real fancy, you even put a top to it. Now that's a pear. This is not a pear. But a pear is not an orange. You see, the two are different. That simple insight is the foundation of realistic drawing, because it is the component of drawing, or the part of drawing, that we call shape. Now, shape is simple to understand, but it's also simple to do. With the right shape, you can start the process of drawing what you see, not just what you think you see. Let me give you another example. For example, if I told you I was going to draw a head, and I said, well, here's what heads look like. And you put two eyes and a nose and a mouth. Well, guess what? We may recognize that as a head. We may say, yeah, that's a head, but that's not a real head. That's just a head the way we kind of think of it, because we think that heads are round. They're not really round. Let me show you. A head, actually, if you were going to draw a realistic head, would probably be more that shape. You say, well, that doesn't look like a head. True, because this head is what we think of sometimes. We say, well, a head is round. But actually, a head is a little more square. I'll show you what I mean. You can put ears on that and put a hairdo on top and put eyebrows coming across and a couple of eyes and a nose and a mouth. Now that is more like what a real head looks like. Shape made the difference. So beginning to understand how to draw means beginning to recognize that shapes are different sometimes than what we think. An egg has a different shape than a pear, than a head, than an orange, etc., etc., etc. All objects have a distinct shape. Now, another idea that's very important in addition to shape is what we call proportion. Now, I got to prove to you that you know how to recognize proportion, because whether you're an artist or not, I think everyone can recognize shape and can recognize proportion. And those two simple ideas are the keys to drawing in a realistic way. Proportion is very simple. Proportion is how long is something, or how tall is something. And every object has a very definite proportion. The length and the width are in a certain relationship, and the relationship between the two has to be just right. Take, for example, our old friend the boat here. That's a little model that I've had in my studio for many, many years, and I brought it down here to the art clubhouse so that we could look at it and draw from it. Some of my paintings feature boats, and so I like to have models that I can use to get ideas from. And this boat has actually been in a couple of my well-known paintings that feature boats. Now, if I was going to draw this boat, and I said, well, here's how this boat looks. It looks like this. Now, would you say that that looks like the right proportion of the mast to the boat? You probably would look at that, whether you're an artist or not, and say, you know, Tom, that boat looks a little too long, and it looks a little too thin, and it doesn't look like the mast is tall enough. I said, well, yes, it is. In fact, here's the sails, and I'm going to put the sails on. Something's wrong. What's wrong is proportion. Now, proportion is simple to spot, and it's also simple to draw, because really, proportion is a big part of making things look the way you see them. Now, if I were to just think in my head what a boat looks like, that would be one way of drawing a boat. But if you're going to draw a real live boat, a specific boat, then you're going to want the proportions just right. I kind of like to draw things that I